kick off? I can start.
Ready to go.
Okay, so well, ladies and gentlemen, hi to everyone. Those who are going to listen, Damien Kernis live, and those who are going to listen Damien later. Hi to everyone, and I wish everyone of you has kept himself and herself very good. Okay, so for those who going to listen Damien for the first time ever, let me introduce that personality. In fact, Damien is not just a personality. Damien is a mind behind the shelf science. Damien holds around 19 years of experience, and it's all about in-store, retail, and the shelf. Damien has been the global director for Nielsen. Currently, he is the CEO of the Australian-based firm named Shopology. Damien has also brought a new concept of retail and shopper lab, what he introduced in Dubai, London, Sydney, and many other cities of different countries. So, Damien, it's time for you to connect with the people in Pakistan. How are you? How are you doing?
Hello, Atif, and hello to the people of Pakistan. It's my absolute pleasure to join you all on this call in these, shall we say, very interesting times. Glad to be here.
That's really good, man. And we all, I mean, on the behalf of the entire Pakistan nation, I'm going to put you a high gratitude and a very warm welcome. Okay, so how is COVID-19 going on?
Well, these are interesting times, as I mentioned, and thank you for the introduction. I've been in Singapore for 10 years now, but we have an office based in Australia and Singapore, and these are times that I haven't seen before. Certainly, the impact of this virus on certainly the in-store retail environment, and of course, as a byproduct, shopper behaviour, shopper thoughts. These are new times for brands, and I think that there'll be a review of our understanding of retail environments and how they connect with shoppers across a number of topics, from spending to how we market to these shoppers, whether it be at home or in store, how we push ideas around new products and what's important to these shoppers. And of course, retail execution. And I think we'll see some changes for sure. How quickly and how long they last will be the interesting factor.
Okay, all right. Just before I start questioning you, let me tell you, since we are going live and I'm receiving lots of questions on my WhatsApp, and I'm receiving multiple questions on my Facebook and my YouTube as well. Okay. So I will be asking you the same question what being thrown to me by my audience. Okay, hope you're feeling comfortable. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Now the first question what I received. Okay, and the question relate to, I mean, the impact of COVID-19 on shopper behavior. I mean, today shopper is different. Post COVID-19 shopper gonna be different. Okay, and how does that prolong COVID-19 going to impact on retail?
Yeah, well, it's a great question from whoever answered it. Thank you for that question. And this is probably the most important question facing retailers and consumer goods brands right now. And I think the answer is slightly different depending on market, depending on category, depending on channel. But I think there's certainly some sort of macro pieces that we can certainly be quite confident in. I think there'll, as expected, be a shift towards spending on essentials and needs versus wants. I think that's quite a general piece. I think that we might see some category transfer trends appearing between in-store and online across certain categories. We've seen a huge shift, obviously, to certain categories being purchased online now that potentially were a traditional in-store purchase. So the question there will be, how many of those shoppers will switch back to buying it in store, and how many will stay as an online purchase for that category. And this will impact other pieces too, such as shopping missions. What are the frequencies of in-store visitations? Channel choice. Where do shoppers see as the most effective and potentially safe channel in the short term to obtain these categories. But I feel we'll see some similar shoppers in terms of profiles. So I don't personally feel that we'll see the profiles of shoppers change a great deal across the channels. I think you'll still get families going to big retail, and you'll still get young singles going to convenience-based outlets. But the frequency and the basket and the mission may be what we see start to change.
Okay. So when you say it's going to be a new shopping mission, that means we need to reassess our shopper, because the shopper we knew before COVID-19, we might not find the same shopper post-COVID-19. We need to reassess the shopper. Do you think so?
Yeah, I do. Look, I do. I think I would preface the answer with not everything that we know and have learnt about shoppers in store is going to become invalid immediately. So we don't throw everything we know about shoppers out. But I think what we need to do is certainly do a reset and refresh. And I think we need to understand that there will be an impact on shoppers' behaviour and shopper mindset. And it will go across channels and across markets and across categories and across retail formats. And I think that's where we have to start to really sort of prioritise what we want to refresh. And, again, this comes back down to, well, how has this shopper changed in terms of what, communicates with them in store from an in-store marketing messaging point of view? What are their thoughts and focuses on in terms of deal types? For example, we might see that personal care becomes a category that's shopped as one product for the whole family in the short to near term, as opposed to buying something for each member of the family. That's just a general sort of personal care thing. We might see that there's a trade up in cleaning products and medicinal and pharmacy goods, etc., because there's a heightened alertness to safety and germs and so forth. And it'll be interesting to see how that translates into store. So there will be some opportunities for trade up. I think there'll also be some opportunities for switching. We've seen that out of stocks in stores have led to shoppers switching brands. So there's an opportunity there on both sides. For brands, there's an opportunity to really be on shelf and lock in your loyal shoppers, and alternatively, for other brands, there's a chance to maybe get some new shoppers to trial your products. But if we look at another industry, for example, like fashion, fashion will probably have a different impact altogether, where these luxury items and these for me items tend to take a back seat, and it becomes more around, do I really need it? And the focus again becomes on needs, if you like, versus wants. And we might see some affordable luxuries start to sort of creep back in certain markets, but I think primarily it will be, the essentials that we see remaining as the focus.
Okay, that's really good. Great. There's another question. A gentleman sent me to ask you, the behavior of the shopper belong to developed market and the behavior of shopper belong to emerging market. Usually, the country where we belong to, Pakistan, comes under the category of a developing market. Okay, we are not that much developed. The modern trade is evolving. Okay, the concept of in-store branding is yet new. People and business fraternity, predominantly FMCG fraternity, they're really gonna take another few years time, okay, to respond to such type of challenges. Okay, so just like that, the shopper behavior in store is entirely different in Pakistan, which is emerging market and the reflection of the old emerging market, and the shopper behavior of developed market will be entirely different. So after COVID-19, okay, the shopper behavior of developed and emerging market will be similar, or there will be some, disharmony?
Yeah, look, these are really great questions coming through too. So, I think it's interesting to look at some of the early types of information that's coming out from some of the research groups across the world. I think there's a general understanding that there will be quite a pullback in modern or developed markets because there's that access to online alternatives. There was a study, I think, done by BCG, one of the big groups there, where they estimated that spending will be less affected in emerging markets. For example, it was predicted that there would be in Indonesia as little as a 3% drop off in terms of consumer spending, as opposed to somewhere like the US, which was upwards of 20%, and in Italy even greater. And quite interestingly, for a country like India, there was even predicted that there'd be a 6% surge in spending based around buying more and larger packs to last a longer time. And these are somewhat estimates because we just don't know how these markets are going to come back in terms of openness and pulling back on these restrictions and how they're going to do it in these staged approaches. So I think there will be a different impact for sure. I get the feeling that in developed markets, the additional channels to access product will see that the foot traffic back into stores isn't as potentially quick as we might think, and that's directly related to that category transference I spoke about earlier. Whereas in the sort of emerging markets, we do sort of see that there's a consistency coming across where we don't expect the spend to drop off as much because of the more singular channel of obtaining some of these products. Now, again, this comes back to very macro pieces across different categories and different markets and different channels. I think what we'll see is that there's some concerns, and those concerns may differ slightly. So, for instance, in Indonesia, we've seen that there's a 75% concern about catching the virus when going back to the retail store. However, that didn't translate to the fact that they would not go. It was more translated in the fact that they were looking for retailers to make that retail environment as safe as possible for them. So that comes back to retail layout and store layout, etc. Whereas, in a market like Thailand, we saw that, personal safety was as low as, sort of 10% in going back to the retail store. So, it's different across markets for sure. So I think, in answer to the question, there will be differences. There will be some similarities. But I think one of the biggest drivers across both developed markets versus emerging markets will be the avenues to purchase that are available to the population of those markets.
Again, that's really good. I mean, when you say it's going to be a different store layout, that depicts me that it's going to be a new store world. Do you really mean it?
Well, this is the area that I've spent a long time in, and I think that the amount of changes we've seen happening in stores with just absolutely new standards being set. If you take a retailer like Sephora, which is by all accounts an incredible retail experience in store, we're seeing some changes happening. We're seeing a real convenience sort of push in these larger store formats, which is to just make it as easy as possible for shoppers to navigate, to find products. One thing I think that we'll see is that you need to probably look at the bricks and mortar or the real store format from a viewpoint that one size doesn't fit all. We know that within even retail brands that they have residential type stores versus roadside stores, or we have regional stores versus CBD stores, and these are different shoppers to a degree, and they require a different shopping environment. I do think we'll see some impact in terms of the retail layout. I think that may take its form in a number of ways. It could be, wider aisles for better spacing of shoppers. I think we'll see some shoppers be less enthusiastic to be tactile with products, certainly in the short term. which may impact, we've done a lot of research around the amount of products that are touched or interacted with that are put back on shelf from shoppers. And it differs greatly across categories. But what we might see is a higher interaction to conversion percentage because shoppers may be less enthusiastic to physically touch products. This all remains to be seen, of course, but these are just some thoughts and assumptions. And I think it will be interesting to see what sort of cleanliness and safety mechanisms are put in by the retailers, whether it be, hand sanitizer or air sanitizing or, spacing and pacing of shoppers through the store. We've seen that already as retailers start to come online. So there's a number of things there, but I think the summary to that sort of question is I think we will see some impact. I think that we need to understand that we need to, as a brand and a retailer, approach these in-store formats as, again, not a one-size-fits-all. And that comes back to saying, well, what does this store do in terms of my network of avenues to my shoppers? Is it a once-a-week shop and they like to get 20 or 30 categories, or do they come to this store, once a day for their essentials on their way home from work? And if we look at it that way, I think that we avoid the trap of trying to, estimate or assume what the impacts will be in store from COVID-19 across all the channels, because I think they will be different, but there certainly will be changes in store.
Interesting. Just one more thing. I mean, do you really think that the conventional tool of merchandising or in-store interception will be working at this, with the same intensity post COVID-19, or we have to reinvent, or we have to have like kind of novel tool to engage our shopper when it comes to in-store merchandising?
Well, I think using novelty ways to engage your shoppers is a standard. I think brands, the best brands that we've worked with are always thinking of novel ways to interact with their shoppers in store, to capture their shoppers' attention, whether it be the ability to research products in store on kiosks, or whether it be more dynamic shelf activation, or it could be co-category habitation within the store. Changing up the locations of where the category is, floor decals. We've seen all of that. And I think the time will come now where, there's a chance via this sort of reset, I feel, for the brands to really get creative in how they engage with these shoppers. And I think, in order to do that successfully, they need to understand the changed mindset of the shopper. And so to do that, I think they need to, understand. They need to get in and refresh their understanding of how the shopper's mind has changed, how it's impacted their missions and their frequencies and their category adjacencies. And this is something that they can do with the retail partners. And I think once they get a better understanding of that, that will feed some new novel ways. They're already there in essence, really. We've got, these retail chains where you can, order online and pick up in store. We've got the ability to, purchase in store and have it delivered. We've got these blurring of channels already happening across the markets, and I think that will continue. Certainly in markets like Indonesia or Thailand, we've got this huge push towards convenience. We have a massive penetration of convenience stores as opposed to a growth in the big format stores, which is starting to decline. And then you take a market like Singapore, which is ultra modern. And shopping is an activity that is just, it's a daily activity, a daily outgoing. We see some pretty new novel ways of interacting with shoppers here. So I think that'll proliferate through down. I think it's important that, the takeout for this point would be that brands should always be thinking of new ways, but this is a great opportunity because there's been a reset and a refresh. And I think that, it's a great opportunity for them to start to find new ways to interact with their shoppers.
Damien, one question somebody sent me just on my WhatsApp, and very simple and very crisp question. The question is, exciting promotion or engaging communication? That is not something pertains to COVID-19 or post-COVID-19. The lady want to know which genuinely works at in-store, exciting promotion or engaging communication? That's a general question.
Yeah, look, it's a great question, and there's a category by category probably answer to that. But I'll try to keep it as general as I can. We've found that engaging communication is great for categories where we have shoppers that potentially are new to the category or are potentially switching. Whereas an exciting promotion is always appealing. A deal. We know that there's value hunting shoppers out there across multiple categories. So the answer really does depend on the category and channel. But what I would say is that there should be an opportunity to creatively market the fact that you're offering a great deal. And we've seen brands that certainly in the FMCG space that have been able to combine the two and really communicate well the value of the deal. Do it swiftly. Do it with key visuals that they know connect with the shopper's mindset. And we know that there's certain categories where you don't have a lot of time to really engage that shopper, as opposed to some categories that are more exploratory, where you can put a lot more information on your activation. So look, I would say both in their categories have relevance, but I would throw out the challenge that we should be able to do both.
Okay, just one more question. And the question is, what should be the most appreciated and the preferred tool of shopper marketing to convert retailer shopper into your brand buyer after COVID-19?
Well, I think tools can be quite general. We can look at tools that help us to acquire data around the shoppers and their thought process, and that helps us to better market to them in store. And then there's tools, such as how are we going to do that in store? Do we do it through dynamic audio-visual interaction? Do we do it through shelf stripping? Can we leverage packaging? Can we use a cross-channel sort of approach to our marketing? Can we make sure that our online presence in terms of our copy and our design and our advertisements line up to what the shoppers see in store, so that there's that consistent flow through from what our shoppers are being exposed to, whether they're looking at it online or on TV or on their phone, versus what they see when they get into store. And we've seen that be used to great success in particular categories across certain brands. For instance, something like the infant formula category, where we know our shoppers do a lot of research around what is this product, and can I put it into my baby's mouth, and there's a whole trust issue there. So making them feel reassured before they even get to the store, and then reinforcing that reassurance and that quality claim around ingredients and safety measures and vitamins and so forth, to really secure that purchaser's thought process. But in terms of tools, I think there's a better range of tools out there than ever before. We've got the ability to understand shoppers' behavior in store, which is something that Shopology focuses on. We've got consultants out there that can help brands decode the information and really turn that into tactics around helping brands to understand what can I do now. But I will say that when it comes to tools, in terms of how can we really use tools to convert more shoppers for our brands, one of the biggest tools is that relationship with the retailer. I've seen some great brand-led category activation strategies be shut down by the retailer because they don't fit into trading terms agreements and so forth. And so I think the idea here is to really work out what you can get done with your retail partners, make them part of the process, have collaborative objective setting sessions. We know that there's joint business planning that happens, and bring new data sources, bring new avenues and views on shopper behavior to the retailers. All of the retailers that I've been in a room with through workshop activations have always been open to new ways to look at the shopper, new data sets to understand the shopper. And I think now more than ever, the retailers will be thirsty and will be certainly hungry for new information around, the post COVID-19 shopper. So anything the brands can do will be a great tool.
Damien, I mean, the way brick and mortar store are eliminating and highlighting, okay, it's kind of, they're providing a great experience to the shopper. Do they provide the same post COVID-19? Reason because shopper is partially moved from retailing to e-tailing. I mean, online shopping. Okay, so different people have got different fear. The other day, I had a detailed discussion with one of the leading chain of the store here in Karachi. The owner told me, I mean, they have multiple questions in their mind. I mean, what they're supposed to do. I mean, the shopper is moved to e-tailing. The m-commerce is prevail in the society. What do you say about it?
Yeah, look, the challenge here will be for certain retailers that potentially don't have a great online presence to get those shoppers back into their stores. We know that's going to be a great challenge for them in certain ways. In other ways, I personally don't think we're going to see a huge drop off of traffic to stores. Again, I think it will be category transfer relevant. So certain categories may see a drop off, and that should impact retailers in terms of space to category allocation. So I think we'll see some categories potentially shrinking in how much store space they've got due to the fact that there's been a transference. But those retailers that particularly have an online store as well, or an online avenue, they've really got to make that feeling of consistency across both formats. They've really got to keep their marketing consistent. They've got to somehow potentially use the online channel as a way to get the shoppers back into the store, because we know that when shoppers visit the store, they can potentially buy more than what they tend to sort of leave in the basket when they're shopping online. So we've seen some sort of flips of the common beliefs around the online piece there. So look, I think the answer to that question is again, probably channel specific, market specific. But I think what I would say is that there needs to be, an understanding of, has there been a change in some of the segmentation of our shoppers? Have we got some shoppers there that, potentially we used to segment them as, a loyalist shopper to our channel, and they've potentially found this new avenue of online shopping, and we just don't have a great offer for them there, so they're potentially lost to us for that category. That's probably going to be the biggest challenge for the retailers, is to really get those shoppers back that potentially have left to another category. But I would say that, just sort of in summary, again, it comes back to these shoppers will stay online because of their experience. Okay, so we've seen that the best way to retain shoppers online is to have a great, seamless, smooth, easy checkout process, easy navigation of the interface. And that's not dissimilar to, the experience of being in store. What we have seen, though, is that the tools and the tactics that brands have in the past had the ability to talk to bricks and mortar about, we've seen that there's probably not as many avenues for those brands to talk to the e-com retailers about their products. For instance, we know the brands can go to the retail partners and say, look, we want to discuss our space allocation on store, on shelf. We want to discuss the different merchandising and blocking principle. We want to look at this sort of activation on shelf. These are some of the pieces that they can roll around product innovation, new packages, pricing changes, pack size changes. Whereas when these brands want to talk to groups like, Lazada or Shopee or some of the more local groups, those tools tend not to be there for them. There's a few groups that are emerging, which is great to see that will help them with that. So I think it's, look, it is an interesting question. I hope that's kind of answered it for you.
Yeah. One school of thought, rather the biggest school of thought here in Pakistan, I'm talking about the fraternity who I interacted mostly. They raised a point that, after that, 2-3 months down the road, it's just going to be a price war. Whoever going to win price war at point of purchase, they are going to be the winner. What do you say about it? Or is that the same scenario occurring in the developed market? Yeah,
look, I think price is always important. Price is whenever we've spoken to shoppers or consumers, you know, price always comes up. But I think what we'll see post COVID-19 is a more focus on quality in terms of whether it be cleaning goods, its ability to, you know, keep my family safe, keep my, you know, house safe. I think we'll see price potentially not be as a barrier in, say, household cleaning or personal care, whereas price might be a factor in terms of stocking up on food and is there a better deal, I can buy more for less or get more grammage, etc. But, you know, on those sort of consumables piece, the price has always been a focus of a deal. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in emerging markets. I think in emerging markets, price has always been at the top of the list. But I think we know that a lot of the emerging markets that certainly we do work in, you know, there's been an increase over the last 10, 15 years of discretionary spend that has seen that price, you know, not be such a barrier. But again, comes down to channel, comes down to category, comes down to market. And I think you'll see probably, you know, a variance in how important price will be. But I would really be quite certain that it will always be, you know, important. I would encourage brands to really call out things like quality of ingredients, ability for health and wellness. We know that that's a huge macro trend that hasn't seen price as a barrier. So, you know, depending on what category, you know, the people on this call are in, it might be a slightly different approach. But I don't see it as a price gouge straight off, would be my, you know, my opinion.
That's true. It's been good, Mike. Thank you very much, Damien. It's been really exciting, and I know you recently had a surgery, okay, and yet you managed to give me 35 minutes of your precious time. I don't know, either you are on the bed or you are sitting on the sofa, but wherever you are, thank you very much. Okay, and I, you know, and I really pray that you get well soon. Okay, and once you are well, we really want to see you here in Pakistan.
Yeah, look, thanks, Atifa. It's really appreciated. It's been, you know, a great thrill for me to jump on this call with you, and I can't wait to get to Pakistan. And yeah, I'm doing okay. And sorry I couldn't be at a visual, but you know, look, thank you to the audience for jumping on as well. These are certainly interesting times. I think it will be almost you know, a reset and a refresh of a lot of things, and that's really a good opportunity. It's a great opportunity for smaller brands to open up new avenues, and it's also a great opportunity for larger brands to really lock in loyalists and so forth. So it's been great to be part of it. The questions were fantastic. Thank you for inviting me, and yeah, thank you for everyone who joined the call.
Thank you very much. Hope to see you soon physically here in Pakistan.
Sounds great. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Atif.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.